Welcome to Superglue Wooden Pirates. Now quite clearly I'm neither co-host or co-bro Captain Moby or Captain Smee'Bern. I am First Mate Smee'Bern. I'm usually hard at work scrubbing the decks, or more namely, doing post work and video work for the lads, but with Captain Moby busy with sexy and education and Captain Smee'Bern busy on SGWP gaming, I've come aboard to bring you some music based content with Mutiny music. So, my tastes are wide ranging and varied, but I tend to find my comfort in punk, pop punk, rock and metal. What we want you guys to do is reach out and let us know any bands you recommend, any artists you want to suggest, or any albums you want us to look at in the future. For today we're going to start with 4 Years Strong's brand new album, Brain Pain, and we're going to do a quick look into the band's history. 4 Years Strong are a modern day mainstay and staple of the pop punk genre. They formed in 2001 and that consists of Alan Day and Dan O'Connor sharing the vocals and guitar duties for the band, Joe Weiss on bass, Jake Masako on drums and Josh Lythard on keys and synth. They came about to popularity just as the scene itself was going through some rejuvenation. The bigger bands had either split up, gone to explore different genres, or just weren't as popular anymore. They took infectious high melodies from the keys and synths and they interlaced these with pop punk chugging rhythms of all the guitar work, the bass and the drums, with breakdowns thrown in there just to capture the scene. There was other bands doing similar sounds at the time, but 4 Years Strong came to be one of the bands that defined that era. In 2011, Josh Lythard left the band just as they were starting work on the album in some way, shape or form. Now this album was described by the band as wanting to explore mature sounds. It had more of an alt-rock influence on it, more post-hardcore, and for me it was probably the most radio-friendly album the band put out. I do enjoy this album, but I can understand why it had such criticisms, especially when they changed the sound so much from their defining era. Since then, the band have worked hard on being able to find the balance in these sounds while still staying true to their creativity. So all of this influences what's to come on this new album. I discovered the band at the height of their popularity on 2010's Enemy of the World. Their soundtrack most of the drunken nights all the local areas, JB's, Planet, Foundry. I'm sure many people were there spending those nights with me, jumping up and down and singing the songs at the top of the lungs. In 2011 on Krang Relentless Tour, I went with my friend Matt, and I take no pride in admitting that as the band walked past, I dived up and down, shouting, "It's them, it's them." The band looked over, smiled, shook their head and walked away. My friend Matt lowered his head in shame. At that same gig, I also bumped into Captain Moby. In 2012, on the A Loss for Words and Don Brocco tour, I bumped into Captain Smee'Bern, showing that the Superglue Wooden Pirates have a long history with this band. So I want to be upfront in admitting my bias towards this band in this album review. I have the lyrics tattooed on my leg, one step at a time. With me, like with most people, meant a lot to me in moments of grief. And all of the songs have always carried an emotional resonance. So I'm going to dive into that now. Brain Pain is the 7th studio album released by 4 Years Strong. It's put out through Pure Noise Records, who are an independent record label that have close affiliations with the punk and pop punk scene. It's also produced by Will Putney, who's notable for his collaborations with bands such as Ice-T's metal contingent Body Count and the Australian deathcore band Viartis Murder. Now these influences shine through on some of the heavier elements here in this album. The album opener, It's Call, lays the soundscape bare for what is to come. This is an album that's going to explore the themes of identity, more specifically identity in crisis. This band isn't the same as the teenagers that started out 20 years ago. This is fighting against the defining sound they've become known for, whilst also taking confidence in that and trying to push their creative boundaries, and the backlash they receive for that in areas at times. This is also about fighting against the comforts, about fighting against routine and finding that balance between home life and the touring cycle. This shines through on lyrics such as, "I can't feel this way forever, but it still hurts like hell when I try to control my temper." And these motives are explored more throughout this whole album. This is an exploration of emotional and mental turmoil. The tracks Get Out of My Head and Crazy Pills deliver the beastly pop-punk hooks that this band have become known for. These two tracks are followed by one of my highlights on the album with Talking Myself in Circles, which delivers one hell of a bass line that you can't help but nod your head along to. Now me myself, I'm a sucker for a good bass line, as is exemplified by the fact that the bass was the first instrument that I myself had discovered, and I can't help but just nod along and lose myself in a good bass riff. Now these three tracks exemplify to me the chugging rhythms that are introduced into this album, that drive the heartbeat and just deliver pure energy. These are interweaved with expansive guitars that just bring so much depth to the soundscape. Amongst these expansive guitars are crazy riffs. This is some of the elements that lead to them finding confidence in their old sound whilst pushing their creative boundaries. This to me is laying the foundation for what this album is. Learn to Love the Lie is a song that highlights the dueling vocals and delicate harmonies of Dan and Alan on this album. It's the strength of 4 Years Strong in this interplay between the two vocalists. This track leads into Brain Pain. Now this is where the influences of Will Putney shine through. This drops into a hardcore blast beatdown. It also has elements of post-hardcore, and towards the end, this may sound weird, but it even has little throwbacks to Deftones on there, in the haunting guitars and the echoing vocals. Mouthful of Dirt brings an alternative rock vibe back to Proceedings. This one is followed by 17. Now my problem with 17 is that, to me, it's something that's become prolific in the pop punk scene. Maybe it's just because this is what I listen to, but it feels like there's a digital vocal compression over this track, which brought to me the elements of the Story So Far's most recent album. This is something that I don't enjoy. I prefer a rawness to a record and the production side of things. But maybe that's just me and a personal thing, but I definitely feel that those two songs lie more in radio-friendly hits. The slowing pace of the album is brought to a tender breather with the track Be Good When I'm Gone. This song explores the themes of the touring lifestyle. It confronts the conflict in having to leave your home life behind to go and face the realities of the road. It's an emotional turmoil. Also musically, there's a part way through this where a string accompaniment comes in, and all I could be reminded of was Oasis Unplugged. Whether that was an influence on them or not, it's something that I brought to the table whilst listening to the track. This is followed up by my favourite on the album, The Worst Part About Me. This is a song that just lets out angst and aggression. It's got a pounding heartbeat to it that makes you want to dive into the middle of a circle pit. This makes you want to lose everything in the mosh pit. The lyrics exemplify that. Go on and rip my beating heart out. That's a summation of everything I'm delivering in this track. Also, this deals with something the band stated they wanted to deliver with this album, which I feel that they do. They wanted to capture the live energy in this record. They've definitely done that. Even the whole pacing of this album, this feels like a band that are leaving you with a bang whilst they go off to take a breather ready to deliver their encore. One of the things that I do find about this element though is that some of the vocals do get lost in the mixing just because of the onslaught of sound you're being hit with. The penultimate track, Usefully Useless, is probably the most radio-friendly song on this record. They deliver a pop-punk melody for the chorus and alternative rock influences for the rest of the song and manage to meld these sounds together. This is followed by album closer, Young at Heart. Now this is like sitting down in the eye of the storm. This is the calm that you find once all of your emotions have been released. This is a summation of the album that has been and gone. It cuts out an abrupt silence and brings the album to a close. One of the things that are a strength of 4 Years Strong is writing relatable narratives in the lyrics that are open to interpretation, allowing us, the fans and listeners, to apply our own emotional investment. These lyrics could just as easily be about relationships as they are about mental health, which I feel the band explore throughout this album. Also, they find a confidence in their sound whilst delivering questioning lyrics, which again explain the full duality that this band are confronting with this album. It's all about identity. My final thoughts on the album Brain Pain by 4 Years Strong are that the band deliver a phenomenal album. They have strong consistency and pacing to the track lists that match a live set list, which is exactly what the band aimed for. It captures the live energy. The peaks and the breathers are exactly where I'd expect them to be. Also, the band take their defining sound, and like they did 5 years ago on their self-titled album, they push the creative boundaries, and even though they confront their identity within the content of the album itself, I feel like they've found their footing. For me, it's the perfect blend of everything they've done before. Critically, it's been really well received, but it struggled to gain momentum. I think this is going to be an album that's looked back on in the discography as highly recommended and highly regarded, but it's just passed over by the mainstream, which is quite a shame. I, for one, cannot wait to see these songs live, and for me, that's always a testament of a great album. Thank you for joining us for the first episode of Mutiny Music. Hope you've enjoyed it, and don't forget to reach out and let us know any bands you want to recommend, any songs you want to suggest, any artists to check out, any albums you want us to look at in the future. Until then, don't forget to check out Captain Moby's Sex Scene Education, Captain Smee'Bern's SGWP Gaming, and also whilst you're on the YouTube channel, check out Super Hot Wooden Pirates, and we'll have a sequel to that dropping shortly. Add us on Facebook, Instagram, reach out to us, give us feedback, and also don't forget to check out the podcast of Superglue Wooden Pirates, available on all the usual places, iTunes, Spotify, Spreaker, the lot. And until next time, peace!